If you thought it was a little bit heavy before the break, it's about to get real heavy. But we love to be able to do this for our technical crowd, and I think even our non-technical folks will get a lot out of this as well. So we're going to bring up some of our security and IT experts. You'll notice at this event, if you're here for the first time, again, we're pretty informal. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on introductions. Our folks come up, they speak. We want you to get as much content in as you can while you're here. So security experts, please come join us on the stage.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you for having us today. I'll say myself, security expert is a strong term. But Matt over here now, he's the guy. But anyway, with everything that happened with the cyber attack on Rapatoni, we felt we needed to get out here and really talk about how do you prevent this stuff from happening. And that's what we want to focus on today with myself and my panel here. I'm going to just take a real quick second and each of you introduce yourself.
Dan Troup, Director of Data Operations and Strategy with Remax.
I'm Rick Herrera, Vice President of Research and Development with Constellation One.
And Matt Cohen, Principal Advisory Services at CoreLogic.
Yeah. So, what we wanted to talk about today is best practices, right? What should you be doing today to prevent what's happened to Rapatoni and other companies, right? I mean, we read about it every week that somebody new has been hit with a cyber attack and ransomware. So social engineering, passwords, antivirus and XDR, and backup and recovery. So we're going to kind of go through this reasonably fast, and there's a lot of information, but we'll see what we can do. So let's start. Come on, there we go. Social engineering. So Matt, I'm going to toss this one to you to start with, right?
Yep, sure. Well, it's important. The most important thing to do with social engineering and phishing is to train. Train at least once a month, if not once in a while, shove a couple out to your people once a week. If you do that, if you get good phishing emails, realistic phishing emails that are as tricky as possible, teach people to do what's needed to avoid.
Yeah, I was at dinner yesterday with someone from Realtor.com, and we were having conversations about the fake phishing emails that we get on a regular basis, how easy it is to get tricked, but also how important it is to really have your team and have your employees understand that they are really the front line of prevention, right? It's that culture that we are always under attack. All of us, there's been one ransomware attack that's been popular recently, but we're all under threat, and it's kind of a question of when, not if. And so that's just really a big piece to get the culture of the team and the employees and the organization to be very mindful and to be cautious. And so these types of things where you get an email, kind of can seem annoying to a certain degree, but from a security standpoint, it's critical. It really helps so much to prevent things from happening in the first place.
Yeah. The hardest time to react to a phishing test is 3 in the morning. Because I don't know about you, but 3 in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, anytime. These days we all work, many of us work from home, but we're always working. And at an odd hour, we get an urgent message that is designed to provoke an emotional response. Something that the boss needs done, HR needs done immediately. Boom. It's so easy to get fooled if you're not careful.
We, at Remax, we constantly have training that gets sent to the corporate employees to try to trick them into, and it's always a running joke of who got caught, and during our corporate meetings, we always like to put up who was caught in the most recent one.
Ooh,
but
the wall of shame.
Yeah, you can ask Nick Bailey about it if he's been caught or not. It'll be an interesting conversation. It's interesting, though, that anybody can be duped into this. The arrogance of I'm too smart to get caught up in this is is not the kind of attitude you want to have. And just to give you an example, our team is really good about this, but we had a great training on when to use AI within our company, what's allowed, and then immediately after that, the company sent out a phishing attempt that was around, hey, here's the new AI policy kind of thing. It was very timely. And some of our senior devs, who I consider the smartest people on the planet, clicked on that thing. And I was shocked at how many that got caught up in. Now, obviously, we have the advantage to know that the timeliness, the content was perfect for that kind of message. But it was really well done, and it's a type of thing where you're just continuing to you have to continue to train the employees on how to identify those things.
Yeah. Just a quick, how many people out here in your company, your organization, conduct phishing attacks, testing?
There you go.
So I would say that's not even half.
Not even half.
All right, and that is the biggest threat vector that you faced. Is phishing attacks. It's definitely something that your organizations need to look at. There's plenty of services out there that will do what Dan and Rick and Matt are talking about, right? Well, they will send those targeted emails, and there's different kinds of phishing. I mean, we can go into spear phishing, right, where they're targeting a direct individual. Back when Matt and I were actually at Clarity. Our accountant got an email one day that purported to be from Greg Larson. Looked like it was from Greg Larson. And it said, hey, please transfer $20,000 to over here. I forgot to do this. They had registered an email domain that was one letter off from ours.
Wow.
Researched Greg Larson as our CEO and sent that email. And that actually led to me talking to a bank somewhere in Texas that had been set up to actually receive this funds, a legitimate banking customer who had got trapped in some scheme where that person doing the spear phishing had done that, right? These folks are sophisticated, and if you're not taking those precautions, in Birmingham, we might be talking about you. So.
Well, one more thing. If I see one more person answer that quiz on Facebook, what kind of car did you drive in the 70s? It's like, please, all those out of pocket knowledge-based authentication questions are what financial services companies use to protect your account, to verify your identity. Old addresses, old cars, they know it all.
Your pet name?
Pet names, like, please stop filling out those quizzes because they're so useful, and they're all part of phishing and spear phishing. So
this is only going to get harder.
Yes.
You saw Sam's demo this morning. That sounded like Rebecca.
Yes.
And you talked in the finance space. I work with some folks in the finance space, or even in this space, where getting duped into sending or ACHing money is a big deal. Yeah. What do you do to validate your customer? I talked to him on the phone. You wouldn't have known if you weren't talking to Rebecca. That would have sounded like Rebecca on the phone, right? Like that scares me to that level of, like, now you got to be in person, right? I gotta validate I'm actually talking.
It's so easy to do.
I know.
So easy to do.
It is so easy to do. So this isn't going to get easier. Train your employees now, I think, is the message here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Passwords. Everybody's favorite thing is passwords, right? And everybody has their password as password 1 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One thing here, and if you can see that chart, hopefully from the back of the room there, is NIST years ago. You all know the complexity requirements, and you got to put in a lowercase letter and an uppercase letter, and then a number, and then you got to have a symbol, and all these sorts of things. Good news is, they say you don't really need to do that. Kind of bad news, or maybe good news, right? If you look at that chart there, and you look down where it's green, and you look at what you have to put in a password and what would be required to actually hack it, it's not too hard to do. You know, if you have a password requirement, if you're still using passwords as one of your main authentication devices, you know, look at saying, you know, hey, you know, I want you to type in a 12-character password or a 14-character password, and everybody's eyes kind of roll and everything, but it doesn't have to be that, because you can tell them, well, you know, you can make that into a phrase, right? It just doesn't have to be completely random, but if you get that length, that complexity of length is what is the security in that thing. So, Matt, something to add there?
Well, you know, and another thing is about password resets. Again, a lot of organizations are changing their passwords on a 30-day or 90-day basis. And the new NIST suggestion is their new guidance is that it be changed yearly or when needed, as in employee leaves, or if, you know, if an employee knows, say, the encryption keys to your most sensitive stuff, it's like that's a password change event. But otherwise, don't change them that often, because the chances are when a hacker does their thing, when they do a breach, they usually finish hacking the way across the organization in under an hour. And the chance of you changing the passwords between when they're captured and an hour later is pretty small. So again, the password advice has changed recently, and if you have policy, employee policy, security policy, it might be a good idea to revisit that policy.
Yeah. Rick, Dan, anything to add to it?
I just, you know, my feeling on passwords in this industry, I'm a little bit jaded on it, because we've been sent passwords from MLSs before in IDX feeds. In IDX feeds, we've received passwords. There's too much plain text passwords in our space. That needs to change. If you're an MLS and you're storing your passwords, or you can see a user's password, you're not storing the password correctly, right?
Yep.
So think about how passwords are stored. Remember, you're liable for that as well. If you send it out, well, you know, what's wrong with, we accidentally send out passwords. Passwords are reused all the time, right? So someone could steal that information, take that information, and that may be the same password they're using at their bank. That may be the same password they're using in their email. And getting to a realtor's email is very valuable. It's how most all ACH theft is happening through realtors' emails, right? So if they're using their same email that they use in the same MLS and they got it from your MLS, that should be of concern. That should concern you. Multi-factor authentication, I don't see a lot of that in our space. It's happening somewhat, but not a ton. So these are things that I think could be easy wins for you in your space to easy changes for you to have.
And there are a lot of third-party tools too that you can go require a login. So you can actually get the information, hey, here's a username, whatever, go here, and you can actually retrieve the password. It's encrypted.
Yep.
And only you have the link that can actually make that work. And it's short-lived, so the password is only good for 24 hours, whatever it is. So somebody hacks email later, which is one of the most common hacks of all, at least at that point, it's gone. You can't find it any other way. It's cheap, it's inexpensive, and there's lots of services out there that will do that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I definitely have seen a lot of passwords come through an email. In our system, we put everything in Secrets Manager. We're AWS. And so at that point, it's encrypted all the way through the rest from that point forward. But yeah, that's always a risk. I do see it in emails a lot too.
Yeah.
I'm just begging MLSs and other companies to change their business requirements, because whether it's your association management system or your MLS system, if you require access to the password so they can't be encrypted, hashed, one-way hashed, so they can't be read, that's a problem. And again, I know every geek out there in the audience would love to not be getting that request, would love to hash the passwords.
Yeah.
But again, it's a business requirement coming from the community. Please, we got to put an end to this.
Yeah. The other point I'd like to make, just from past experience, in MLS organizations, especially, going back to my Clarity days again, when we were doing strong authentication, I had a lot of customers that would have their staff get weaker requirements for passwords. So the folks that had the access to the most critical systems at the highest levels had the weakest security. So make sure that, if you're doing these password policies, they are applied uniformly across everybody, especially those who have those elevated privileges, because that's your risk factor right there. It's like if your members are doing, multi-factor authentication or have to do a 12-character password, your staff needs to be doing at least that well. My own staff today at AMP, we're doing multi-factor authentication everywhere, all of our systems. Because, for our customers, we have that super elevated privileges. We're going that extra step. And, it's, you could say it's a pain and stuff, but protecting that intellectual property, protecting those systems is key on that.
One more thing I have to say about password managers. Many people use password managers to remember the many passwords across the many systems that they have. And while that's useful, I personally don't use them because I believe the best software for password managers is up here. But if you use them, do this. Go to Google, type in your password manager, the word hacked, and see if your password manager has a good security track record, because there are some real dogs out there.
Yeah. Let's move on. The fun one, antivirus and XDR. So I think you had some good stuff on this we were talking earlier.
Sure, as far as, there's a lot of things you can do as far as, threat detection goes. I'll pass on antivirus for a second. But threat detection to me is a real interesting one. We talked to 500 MLSs. There have been far too many times from both my experience back at Realtor.com and even at Constellation, where we have detection that's coming in, data's come in, photos have come in, and they're immediately captured. And so we have to reach back out to a vendor, to an MLS, and say, hey, there's malicious stuff in here already. So whoever the photographer is that took this photo, their computer's been very compromised. And so you have to have detection that comes through all the time, 24/7. It's not people, right? It's got to be software. It's got to be automation. Cloud services have a lot of solutions that do that. There's a lot of software providers, CloudStrike, lots of places that will help you do that. I think that's really important to watch your data, because that's how things spread. And it spreads fast, and it's easy, and it's around the clock.
Yeah. And if you're a technology vendor in the room, like, Rick and myself, that's the we put on our systems to prevent that. If you're an MLS organization, you need to be asking your vendors, what are they doing to protect that, right? You're entrusting them with your lifeblood there. So what's happening on their systems? It's not an unreasonable question. It shouldn't be an awkward question, because cyber attacks are real, and they can happen.
Definitely. I got to say, the difference between antivirus and extended detection and response is huge. Every company that has been affected by ransomware had antivirus, okay? Antivirus is the old technology. Antivirus is done, okay? It's just done. Its day is past. Nowadays, you have to also have extended detection and response of some mechanism. And I put a chart up there. The leaders in that space are on that chart. Microsoft, CrowdStrike, and so forth. It's critical to have these systems in place. They're the only thing that has a chance of stopping a breach when someone gets malware, someone responds to phishing, someone downloads that file. And I don't mind occasionally getting a false positive and getting a call from the security office, because I run tools that many of which could be pointed at the company, but happen to be pointed away. But again, you have to have that protection in place.
A good example here is Microsoft on the list. Office 365, a lot of users of Office 365 probably in the room, right? That's where you host your email. probably have it. Most of you probably buy the default out-of-the-box Office 365. There are add-ons that do this that's built right into Microsoft. So you can go pay extra money to have, there's, I think, Microsoft Defender inside of Office 365, as well as you can do things like conditional access that look for risky logins. So what we're saying up here is that you can do all this right. You can do multi-factor authentication. You can do long passwords, and you could still be hacked. So this XDR is looking for risky type logins that may not be in the US. So out of the box, Office 365 allows logins in every country, pretty much. Someone from China can log into your account. Someone from Russia can log into your account if they have the correct information, right? So having those easy add-ons in Office 365 and having an expert help you with that, I think is important to help protect your identity management inside of Office 365.
Yeah. Another point I wanted to make is many people with Mac, Apple computers think they're invincible, and they're really not at all. Especially now that they have Linux under the hood, they're pretty vulnerable. And they come with XProtect and Gatekeeper, and they also come with sandboxing that you have to set up, especially. They do not come enabled by default. You really have to work to get it set up. And again, the XDR solutions that work across Windows, Android, iOS, and Mac.
Right. And so, so what we've talked about so far is on the prevention side. And it's definitely where, all of us agree. I mean, put some effort there, spend some money there. That ounce of prevention is worth the pound of the cure. Yeah. But still then, we still have happen, right? Something does happen. Whether it's the cyber attack that Rapatoni experienced, or my favorite theoretical is, a giant meteor just crashed into your data center and there's nothing left. What do you do now? Right?
And I think, I know we have a lot of MLSs here, right? This is mission critical to your business, to your members, to the agents and the brokers that are, making transactions of real estate move forward in this country. It is worth the time to have a conversation with whoever it is that's hosting your data, whoever it is that's responsible for these mission critical applications, and really having a talk about what do you do? What kind of redundancy do you have? How do you protect things? What do you have up front that protects you, that monitors threats? And then we'll get into also, what is the reaction plan? If something goes bad, what do we do? It's a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, just the backup, the first point on the slide there is real-time versus recovery. At one point, we used to have, believe it or not, kids, we used to have magnetic tapes in which we stored the information.
Off-site.
And people would take, once a week, people always take the day before home, and then one of the weekends they take home for the whole week. Again, that was great, because we had recoverable data, and it was kept offline. But these days, with real-time in the cloud backup, so much of the time, it's never offline. With a lot of services, it's never offline. And 93% of ransomware attacks also delete the backups. So don't be so arrogant thinking, well, I have the backup in the cloud. If you're not taking snapshots, if you don't have an offline backup, really 93% of the time, you're not backed up.
Right. Do the same credentials that they use to get in the front door and corrupt your main system.
Exactly.
Or do those happen to be the same credentials that protect the backups?
Yeah.
What's there on that? And the other one is, in this, when was the last time you actually did that restore and tested it? Right? I mean,
what happened to Rapatoni, it just makes me so angry that someone else kind of not decided their fate. I'm not sure what their fate will be, but it just pisses me off that someone changed the trajectory of them, and they had no control over that.
Yeah.
And we all talked about it while it was happening and after it happened. even internally, we were saying, okay, let's do our own fire drill, right? We should make sure that we're able to restore our backups quickly, and talk about doing it with the team and not telling the team. It's like we're all going to meet at the office one day, or we're all going to have a Zoom one day, and it's going to be, hey, you don't have access to this, this, and this. We want you to restore everything to a separate environment. So
Yep.
you can do everything right we talked about here today, passwords, XDR, all those things, social engineering training. It's a matter of the if versus when kind of thing. And I think you said that in the beginning, and being prepared for the when, because it could have happened to any one of us on here.
Yeah, it was an absolute gut check when I heard that news break, and it was like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad, but this could so easily happen to us and to anybody else as well. And so it was certainly a time to go back, reevaluate, look at the game plan, look at the policies, look at the security stuff we had. How would we actually react? And we have made some changes, honestly. It was time to do that.
Yeah, it was definitely a wake-up call.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call for sure.
Yeah, if you don't drill your disaster recovery, testing it as if everything is gone, including your domain, your mail, everything, then you don't have backup if you don't drill it. And you can't tell if you have everything you need to get back on your feet.
Yeah, and by the way, your electronic copy of your disaster recovery plan is gone as well.
Yep.
So you did print it out and put it on the bookshelf, right?
Put it on that magnetic tape. Take it home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one for me, actually. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, like, Meteor took out everything, right?
It's sitting on my laptop, but if I can't open my laptop,
Yeah.
that's on SharePoint. But
So-
even still, it all gets locked out. So have it on paper is great advice.
Right. So don't have a time monitor. What's our time check?
We're time. Yep. Sam's.
Okay. So I guess we're done. But
Actually, one more slide.
yeah, one more slide. Matt and Jay and I will be at a security roundtable tomorrow morning. Please come and talk with us. There's always something to learn.
Yeah,
So.
it's a great topic. It goes very deep. So between the happy hours, the events, the dinners, feel free to come by, have a conversation. Always happy to have that conversation.
We're having a security fire drill tonight at 2 a.m. at the bar. Be prepared. Taking all your laptops, and we're going to go.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.